dead and gone. But look, y'all do me a favor. Y'all do me a favor. Y'all turn around and look at each other right now. Y'all turn around and look at all these motherfucking people here. And obviously...
But yeah, so I used to go to Rise, would have been 97, 98, and then back to who's now one of my best friends, but used to go back to this guy's house. There used to be like 50 people in this 2-bed flat, and spend all Saturday there, listening to Trade 4, Trade 3, Turner DeVee live in Tel Aviv, Turner DeVee Money Pennies, you know, all these CDs that at the back of the wardrobe now. So as we were listening to the Trade CDs and the Turner DeVee live in Tel Aviv and all these, you know, amazing CDs that were coming out, so they were obviously a big enough market for it, or they wouldn't have been putting these CDs out, but that were our first exposure to it. And then we started going down to Some Essential. Like I said, that was the bridge. So you'd got the Trade DJs, you got E&M, Steve Thomas, Tony DeVee, Pete Wardman playing in Some Essential, and that was, you know, the only way apart from going down into London, which, you know, when you're in Sheffield, it's a bit of a trek. But we'd get a coach and there'd be 40 of us that go down to Some Essential on a Sunday afternoon when it used to be at Pulse, and that was really like our first experience of seeing DJs playing live, that type of the type of music that I ended up sort of playing myself. I don't know really. I mean, it's like, why does anyone like anything? You know, I've always been into like the harder edge music, whatever I listen to. So coming from like a thrash metal background, this, you know, the high energy, harder dance music was just like a, you know, the substitute, if you like. I used to work as a printer, and I saved 500 quid, and I went to Yorkshire Bank and got a £500 loan and bought 1210s and I think it was a Gemini mixer, I think. Used the amp and stuff that I'd already got, but that was the setup, because I knew, you know, I thought, what's the point in buying belt drives or something and just having to replace them in a few months anyway. The guys, you know, friends of mine that were influencing me, that, you know, were making me want to DJ because they could do it. They'd got 1210s, and I thought, well, if I'm practicing on belt drives, I'm just going to be fucking useless, because I never thought I'd end up playing in a club, but I just thought, if you're going to do it, you may as well do it right.
I've been saying for fucking years.
The big thing for me where I thought I can actually, you know, make a career out of this is, I played at a club in Sheffield, and it was like the biggest gig I'd ever done. So I'd already started playing, you know, like a few bits here and there, but only in Sheffield, and only really for nights that friends were doing. But there were a big night that a friend of mine put on, and E&M were playing, and I followed E&M, and basically, you know, did stuff I shouldn't have done earlier on at night, thinking I'd be alright by the time I played, and I was fucking shit. And at that point, that's when I knew that, you know, I wanted to sort of take it seriously, because I knew I could have done obviously so much better if I'd have just been sort of with it. And so yeah, that were like a real key moment, because other people in our circle of friends had real potential, but then, you know, wanted to party at the same time, and you know, I've never done that. You know, I've just, if you want to make a job out of it, if you want to make a career out of it, you've got to, you know, you won't turn up for your, well, that's what some people do, but you won't turn up for your office job half-baked. And, you know, I think with DJing, you've got to sort of do the same, really.
All these stupid fucking experts.
There were a point, actually, where I thought, you know, this is not working out, and I nearly sort of packed in. And just really, when I made the decision that I was going to forget about it, Tom from Insomniacs asked me, he sort of just took over Insomniacs at that point, and asked me to come and play. And then, so I went that Sunday, I did the luckily for me, he put me in the slot that I was best suited for, which was the last set. You know, a lot of the time when you're effectively an up and comer, you get put on early, and then you're in this thing where you're having to play something that you're not particularly suited to, or as some people do, they just thrash it out anyway to try and impress, and all they do is piss off the person that's playing after them. So I was lucky. I mean, I'd done nights where I'd had to play the early sets, and I'd done mixtapes that were more that type of thing, but for me it was the hardest, and that's what Tom wanted me to play. So I did the Insomniacs set with I think it was the last weekend in January 2000, and so, I mean, well, it's nearly exactly 12 years ago. And less than a mile from where we are now is where we're at Europa in Sheffield, and I remember I started playing, and within 10 minutes of me starting, half of the people in the club had left, but the other half were loving it. I didn't really think about it. I was looking back, I think I just took it for granted, really. But I did put a lot of, well, compared to what some people have to go through week on week, I didn't put a lot of effort in, but compared to what some other DJs do, I were really sort of working hard to further myself. I mean, the thing is that I realised even in the first 3 months of playing Insomniacs, I mean, Tom were cramming 1,400 people into Insomniacs at this point, but even I knew then, if I did the best set that I'd ever played every week, it's still just 1,400 people. And then 1,400 people, some of them might tell somebody else, and your name spreads that way. But for me, I thought, how do I get maximum exposure? So by the end of 2000, I'd started, putting tracks out. We'd set Vicious Circle up by the end of 2000, so that were up and running. And by the end of that year, I think it must have been the August, I'd done my first international gig. So I'd only just, even though I'd been playing since since '98, so I'd had a couple of years of just doing the local circuit. I'd had a couple of gigs in Birmingham, and then Insomniacs hit early 2000, and then so that's when it first started. By 10 months later, I was on a plane travelling to Canada to play over there. So that a lot of people think I'm older. Like I were with Nick Sentient and his girlfriend, I'm not sure, but in Australia a few years ago, and we were chatting, and they thought I was like 10 years older than what I were. This is at this point I was like 25 or something. And they thought I was in my 30s because I'd always been around. They'd like got into the scene, and I were already like an established name. I mean, Callie Gage, I had that same conversation with her. I'd just turned 30. I was talking to her in a club, and we were talking about how old we were. I said I was 30. She went, "Oh, I thought you were older than that." I'm like, "You cheeky bitch, what are you talking about?" But she says, "No." She says, "I used to go to Insomniacs." She says, "And you were one of the main DJs there." She says, "I just assumed you were older than what you are." So because it went so quick, by going into 2001, effectively I was an international DJ, but by that Christmas I'd got bookings for Australia and New Zealand the following year. In 2001 I went out to South Africa for the first time. Vicious Circle, then it were up in, after Tidy Tracks and Nucleus, it was probably the biggest hard house label around, or definitely in top 5. And obviously me leading that, and then more tracks coming out, doing remix. I was doing like a remix a week. So it really just built the brand, if you like, the name, quickly.
Y'all do me a favor.
No, I've always had management. Some of it good, some of it not so good. The first guy that ever managed me were useless, to be fair. But he, when I got asked to do the Insomnia CD, that's another thing that happened early on in the career, because I was with Insomniacs. So it's a long story, I'm not going to go into it now, but I got asked to do one of the discs for what became Insomnia, which started its life as an Insomniacs CD and then never quite came about. Andy Pickles, who I very rarely see him now, but I would sort of count him as one of my sort of friends in the scene. Fair play to him, he sort of got me into the office when the Insomniacs thing fell through and said, we'd ask you to do this because of your Insomniacs thing. I thought he were getting me into office to tell me that they were just going to, well, that's it because we're not doing it now. He said it's not going to be that, it's going to be insomnia, but we'd still like you to do it if you want to do it. And so, there were you didn't have to do that. And it did a lot for me because by the end of 2000 I was doing international gigs, I was headlining, smaller gigs in UK, being fairly top billing on other gigs. I don't know if we'd done festivals back into that year, and I got a compilation album. So anyway, at this point, Tidy management were being put together. Lee Haslam were leading that, and but I never got asked. There were Jez and Charlie, there were Mark Gray, Lee Haslam, I forget who else, but there were some other people on the management, and I were like, in that sort of group, if you like, like the sort of the new up and coming Yorkshire-based artists, but they never asked me, and I was like, so anyway, I went in for a meeting with Andy Pickles about the CD, and I said, while I'm here, I said, I've got to ask, is there a particular reason why I've not been asked to be on Tidy management? And he's like, well, yeah, because you're in a contract with this other guy. I'm like, what? Right. So this guy had told Lee Haslam actually that I were in a contract that they couldn't get out of. So this, I nearly ended up losing out. So take notice, kids. These are the people you've got to sort of be wary of. But anyway, so then I ended up on Tidy management, and for 2 or 3 years that were awesome. Getting loads of gigs, fee steadily increasing, and yeah, just good times. Then Mark Foster, who was the head of Tidy management, he then left to be Trophy Twins. And rather than replacing Mark, they actually decided to sell the company, the Tidy management, to Most Wanted in London, and that's when it just all went shit. We all thought it was going to be a real good positive thing, and it was just a fucking disaster. Like, my accountant the year after was just like, what the fuck have you... To put it into context, I earned 1/5 of the money. The next year, the first year I was with Most Wanted, and it's not all about the money, but when you're earning X, and then the next year you're not even earning Y, I mean, it's just, I went from doing 2 gigs a week to, if I were lucky, 2 gigs a month. People would probably watch this and think, well, why don't you just leave sooner if it were that? But at the time, because what they used to do is they used to put gigs in your diary, so it looked like your diary, things are picking up, you've got this, and this, and then if there was a gig on a Friday, you'd get a call on a Thursday, they pulled it, it's not happening. Well, did you get a deposit? No. What the fuck? Because that gig never existed, do you see what I mean? They just put it in, and so you're always working on this sort of false, like under this pretense all the time. So yeah, it were bad times. We talk about Kick It being the last, even the first weekender, Kick It wasn't the last drag. I mean, you've got fucking idiots like me, and people come, smile more. Looks like Dracula's butler. Everyone calls him Dolphin Head. Well, no, nearly half my life has been DJing. Like on New Year's Eve, I took some out of CD wallet, and I was like, fucking hell. Like, if I play this now, I'm only ever going to be able to play it one more time. Hi guys, I'm just letting you know that although there's been a lot of speculation as to where and when the last Glazby set will be, I can assure you that on the 25th of February 2012, when I play at Storm in Colville, it will be the last Glazby set ever. I'll never play another CD or record in a UK club ever again. So you can get yourself down, Colville, Storm, 25th of February. We're starting at 8 PM, 10-hour set. It'd be good to see you there, for my ego and for Jimmy's wallet. So let's see you there. Cheers.